Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 659 for the 30th of May 2021. Richard Saunders here with you this week. With the news coming out of Australia that in the state of Victoria there has been a sudden and somewhat worrying increase in COVID-19, our first story is about me here in Sydney fronting up for my first vaccination. Now, the one I'm taking is called the AstraZeneca one, and it's available to over 50s here in New South Wales. I fit that bill. So, a few days ago, I made the journey out to the suburb of Homebush, the Olympic Park precinct, where there is now a vaccination hub. Join me as I travel by car and trains, get to the vaccination hub, and have my shot. A few days after that, I caught up with Susan Gerbeck, Adrian Hill, our reporter, Kelly Burke, and Leonard Trimmel as they discuss their reactions and experiences to having vaccinations in the United States and Canada. Following that, it's back once more to Mind Body Wallet. Yes, the Mind Body Wallet, really the Mind Body Spirit Festival, was held once more in Sydney after a gap of a year. I go along with our good friend and supporter Daryl Cahoon, and from the Medical Republic magazine, Penny Durham. We wander the stalls and the stands and the aisles of Mind Body Wallet to see what new and exciting nonsense we can discover. Mind you, there's always a lot of interesting things to see and buy at Mind Body Spirit, Mind Body Wallet, including some lovely hot sauces and things like that, clothes, jewellery, that's all very good. Now, bear with the recording. I was making some comments as I wandered around the aisles of Mind Body Wallet, and my microphone did not live up to my expectations. Well, it was the phone in the microphone. It was the microphone in the phone, I should say. When I was holding it near my mouth, didn't quite pick me up as clearly as I'd hoped. Please remember that, keep that in mind. You can hear me, but it's a little bit, it's not as clear as I would have hoped. Then another story with somebody we talk about every now and then on the Skeptic Zone, former celebrity chef Pete Evans. I've called this segment, Pete Evans Cooks His Own Goose. He's cooked it again, and the Therapeutic Goods Administration here in Australia has issued infringement notices totaling almost $80,000 against Pete Evans and his company for more claims of nonsense. Then to round off the show, it's a Trove segment once again. I wander through the digital archives of newspapers, gazettes and magazines and so on. And with the recent trip to Mind Body Wallet, I thought we'd look for references to the New Age and the word skeptic within the same article. A big shout out to my friends in Melbourne, and those especially having to once more modify their lives to work from home. And I'm thinking especially of those teachers out there who are now having to sit down in front of the computer and teach remotely. Don't underestimate teachers, folks. They're one of the most important parts of our society. Maybe I should send them all a little piece of origami to brighten their day. Stay tuned at the end of the show for an important announcement from me concerning a special episode of the Skeptic Zone coming up in the next week. But now it's time for me to run downstairs and enjoy a glass of root beer, no sugar, which is what they're calling diet root beer these days. I discovered a source here in Sydney. I travelled quite a distance and I bought myself a carton of no sugar root beer, my favourite drink. Go figure. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. It's Vaccination Day. V-Day? Well, I call it V-Day. What is today? It's the 24th of May, 2021. It's just after 5 o'clock in the evening, and I'm about to drive to the train station, and the train will take me to the vaccination hub here in Sydney at Homebush, the Olympic Park precinct, where, since I'm over 50, I'm entitled now to get the COVID-19 vaccination, and it's the AstraZeneca. This comes in two parts. Part 1 today, Part 2 in about 12 weeks. Now, I do know some people have reported negative side effects, feeling unwell, flu-like symptoms, and painful arm. This is not unexpected. I don't know if this will happen to me or not. I've got no idea, but I do know it's the right thing to do to go and get my COVID-19 injection, especially when today, as I'm driving, I'm getting ready to drive, the news has come across the airwaves that there are cases, new COVID-19 cases in the state of Victoria, in the city of Melbourne. So complacency is something we can't afford, and, off I go. Off I go to get my injection. Well, here I am at the local train station. Let me see, about to look for a connecting train to get me to Olympic Park.
Doors closing. Please stand clear.
At last I've made it to the final platform for my final connection. The train's waiting here, doors shut, and it's an old one. It's an old one with the old style seats, a blast from the past. I guess this is the one they just keep to this line which goes out to Olympic Park. I hope the door's open. And after all that, here I am at the station at Olympic Park, and there are big helpful signs with arrows saying Vaccination Centre. I think I know where I need to go.
The train on platform 3 goes to Lidcombe only.
This area, since the Olympics, has been used for many things, and it's more and more a residential area. Not too crowded tonight, bit of traffic. Anyway, I'm following signs stuck on the sidewalk here on the footpath with helpful arrows pointing me in the right direction. Oh, I see, and there's a big illuminated sign up ahead. Vax Centre 200 meters ahead, and then it says only join queue at appointment time. All right. Oh, I'm 20 minutes early. I must be very keen. So I will scope out the joint and prepare to join the queue at my appointed time. There it is in the distance now. I've never been to a vaccination hub before. I've always had vaccination simply at the GP or the chemist. So this will be interesting. And there are a few people milling about, I can see. Oh, that's interesting. There are actually two centres going on. There's one on either side of the road, and I've been conducted to the smaller centre in another building. Okay, fine. Big signs this way, right? Well, in I go, and hopefully I can give you a report soon.
Okay, just relax your arm and then let me try to. Okay, just deep breath in. Okay.
Wow, it didn't hurt at all.
You want to hold there for me?
Well, it's all over. I'm now back outside again, walking across the road. And after the shot, I was directed to a little waiting area where there were There was tea and coffee. Woohoo! Instant coffee. Oh well. But I did have a biscuit. Oh yes. And I had to wait 15 minutes just to make sure I was okay, which I still am, feeling fine, as I walk back to the train station. So I guess the next part of this saga will be, how do I feel tonight and tomorrow? And Imelda, my nurse, fully explained to me that some people have adverse reactions, sore arm, flu-like symptoms, headaches, nausea, that sort of thing. So if it happens, I can't say that nobody told me. Anyway, time to go home and see what tomorrow will bring. It's the next day. It's Tuesday, the 25th of May. And what time is it now? It's 8:30 in the morning. So I received my vaccination yesterday at 7 p.m. So it's about 13 and a half hours later. And so far, so good. So far, so good. No ill effects. My arm is it even sore? Not feeling any soreness in my arm. They seem to be quite fine. I'm not saying that there will be no ill effects, but as of yet, I don't feel anything whatsoever. I guess it's possible I could be simply one of the ones who has very mild or no side effects. I just don't know yet. So far, so good. And now it's the next day. It's Wednesday here in Australia. And I must admit, folks, I did have a bit of a rough evening. Last evening, I started to feel chills. I started to feel a bit achy, a bit unwell. But a good night's sleep, and I seemed to be okay again. So I think my negative reaction was roughly 24 hours after the shot, and it didn't last too long. It wasn't very fun, but it seems to be over now. I'm with the Great Australian Prediction Project once again. I've got Susan, Adrian, Leonard, and Kelly on the screen. Who's had their shot? Hands up. Okay. Oh, everybody. And we'll start with you, Susan. Any negative effects?
I just was very tearful whenever Mark Edward got his shot. He was before me. And then I was tearful again when I got my second shot, and then tearful again when my kids started getting their shots. So, but no negative reactions, just positive, feeling like a sense of relief and a sense of euphoria that we're done with this, that we're over this part. It was a great moment in science.
Great moment in science. And which vaccination did you get?
I'm Pfizer.
Pfizer. Okay, Adrian, how about you?
Yeah, I got Pfizer as well, and I was teary when I went in. I've only had one shot. I'm still awaiting the second appointment. We're a little behind the US in that. But I did have a reaction about 24 hours after my shot. I was walking into a grocery store, and it was like a switch went on, and suddenly my body ached. I felt nauseous. I did not feel well at all. And I turned around, went home, and went to bed for 4 hours. And then the switch went off, and I was fine. Yeah. It was very strange.
It sounds more or less what I experienced. So you went into a shop and a switch went on. So you were reaching for the wrong maple syrup, obviously.
That was it.
You were reaching.
They had no Canadian maple syrup.
So you had to settle for the imitation Australian one, as recommended by noted pancake eating expert Richard Saunders. That's Leonard, how did you fare?
So I got the Moderna shot, and after the first dose, I just had a slightly sore arm. After the second dose, I had an arm that was so sore that having the blanket move on it at night woke me up.
Wow.
And then after 2 days, for just short of an hour, I had a case of the shivers. I wasn't actually cold, so I don't call it the chills.
Right.
But I was just shivering uncontrollably for about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Which I keep thinking is a lot better than a ventilator.
I think you're absolutely right. Yes, I experienced some sort of, chills or shivering or cold feeling, Not great fun, but not too unbearable. Now, Kelly, how did you manage it?
So after my first shot, I had a bit of a sore arm. For my second shot, I was so ready. I drank as much water as I could. I went to bed early because I was like, I'm going to have a bad reaction. My roommate just had a bad reaction, and I had like nothing.
Oh, and which version did you get?
I got Moderna.
Moderna. Okay, I got AstraZeneca. So we've covered all bases here, folks. So that's the story. A few negative reactions, nothing too dramatic. A slightly unwell feeling for a little while, but I can say now I'm feeling absolutely fine. And in 12 weeks, I get my next shot. So from the Great Australian Psychic Prediction Project, thank you, everybody.
You're most welcome, Richard.
Hey, Adrian.
Hi, Susan. Out for some shopping, eh?
Yep, I'm stocking up on this imitation maple syrup from Australia.
Imitation? Imitation? No. You need to buy the real thing from Canada.
But I saw the TV commercial, and it said that noted pancake-eating expert Richard Saunders says it's the best maple syrup money can buy, and 60% of people preferred it in a blind taste test. Everyone knows it's the best.
Oh, come on, Susan. You know better than that. That's the argument from authority.
It is?
Or is it the argument from popularity? It might be another logical fallacy. I'm not sure.
Really? If only we had a way of finding out.
Hello, everyone.
Oh my, it's the skeptical fairy godmother angel from the internet.
Yes, that's right. But how did you know who I am?
I listened to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Also, didn't you used to be the tooth fairy?
Oh, yes. I remember you. I'll never forget your left upper lateral incisor. Would you like it back?
No, it's okay. You keep it.
Hey, skeptical fairy godmother angel. What are you doing here in the supermarket?
I've come to tell you that you can find out about 40 different logical fallacies on YouTube in one handy location. Listen to each one to hear an explanation and examples of how they might be used.
Oh.
Just go to tinyurl.com/logicalzone and you'll find all the logical fallacies with Michelle Bickersma with handy time codes to get to the exact one you want.
Who is Michelle Bickersma?
Oh, just a friend of mine.
tinyurl.com/logicalzone. Thank you, skeptical fairy godmother angel. I guess you'll disappear in a puff of smoke and thunder now, eh?
Not quite yet. I have a bit of shopping to do. Susan?
Yes?
Where do I find the Australian maple syrup?
What? No. Come with me, so-called skeptical fairy. This is real maple syrup from Canada. Made with real maple.
Well, after a break of a year, owing to, obviously COVID-19, the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival is on again here at Darling Harbour, or as we like to call it all together now, Mind, Body, Wallet. I'm outside the entrance here, waiting for a few friends to come along to join me, and there's a big sign saying free entry. I think that's an older sign. The entry is free, but you have to register online, and I think that's a vaguely sensible idea to keep numbers down because of COVID, but we'll see. And it'll be interesting to see what it's like after a year's gap, a year's rest from Mind, Body, Wallet. And I'll be keeping a sharp eye out for any COVID-19 related quackery or woo or bad advice. Anyway, yeah, it's very different. Normally there's a lot more fanfare up here outside the entrance, but they're just people milling around. So here we go. here I am walking around the main body of Mind Body Wallet. It's really good in the sense that, I guess because of COVID, it's not nearly as crowded as it used to be on a Sunday in years past, which makes it a much more relaxing experience. I'm here with a long-time supporter of the Skeptic Zone and Skeptic Daryl Cahoon, and Penny Durham from the Medical Republic magazine. And she's finding this quite an eye-opening experience, and I think she's going to interview me later on for their podcast. Links in this week's show notes if appropriate. But we're already past a couple of iridologists and some other eye examination I wasn't familiar with. Crystals and, you know, the normal range of interesting healing. Well, here we are in yet another aisle, and we've passed lots of very interesting things, including a quantum healing device, a quantum vibration device, which harmonizes your energies and vibrates in the same frequency as your blood. Is that it? Sort of thing I've seen here before, but packaged differently. A quantum healing device. Really, I should go back and get one. And at last we've come to probably the last row here, and yes, it's the psychic reading room, $55 for 25 minutes. And you can choose from a list of psychics. They're all behind big partitions. Oh no, there's a big gap there I can see. I'll get closer and see some of them. And of course there would be no surprises in there. That's been the same for the 20 years I've been visiting Mind Body Wallet. A room or a big partitioned area full of psychics. They've got their names and pictures on the wall outside.
Maybe something's ending.
Psychic reading, sex available. Lots and lots of psychics. We escaped. We're out. I'm with Daryl Cahoon. Hi, Daryl.
G'day. Hi everybody.
Good. And Penny Durham from the Medical Republic. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the Medical Republic.
Oh, it's a magazine for GPs. We're online and in print. And we've been around for about 5 years. And we've ramped up our editorial content quite a lot over the past couple of years. And we now send 2 newsletters a day and one at the weekend, and we have a fortnightly print publication as well.
Fantastic. Now, this is a funny situation, folks. We were just in the Mind Body Wallet wandering around, and Penny interviewed me for a podcast. Yeah. We've come and we're turning the tables. We've escaped, and now I'm going to interview you. Now, you said you were at one of these events many years ago?
I think I have been here before, but like between 15 and 20 years ago with a friend who worked for one of the well-being type magazines, and he was very into this kind of stuff, and I think he showed us around. But I haven't been back since.
Right. And as someone, well, I guess we could say sort of fresh to what you just saw, what were your impressions?
I want to be careful. I think a lot of it is, there's a lot of crystals, there's a lot of food, there's a lot of absolutely harmless stuff that gives people pleasure. There are your psychics and your mediums and your Reiki purveyors and chakra realigners and aura photographers. Actually, I'm sure the aura photographer was exactly the same one that was here 20 years ago.
I think I recognise the box, the camera they used. It looks like year after year. Yeah,
pretty sure. So some of them obviously are enduring, and as we were discussing before, some of them come and go. And I think some of them edge into making very serious medical claims that they certainly should not be making, and for which there is no evidence and indeed no possible mechanism.
Yeah.
And when you do ask, so how does this work, you do get a stream of high-grade gobbledygook.
Yeah.
You know, using words of
word salad, we call it.
Yeah, biomagnetic resonance and
quantum healing.
Yeah. Stuff. So, I just, you stay polite and move on. And
you have to. Yeah. So no, it's people look at me crazy because I come back year after year, but I think it's important. Now, what I was keeping an eye out for, which I didn't see, were COVID claims, which is interesting.
Me too, yes. I think it would be a very bad look in this year if there was anybody who was offering anything that they claimed to, protect you from COVID. And I think the organisers and probably the vendors themselves would be too smart to offer anything that was...
I think you might be right.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think they would get... Actually, I'm not sure what sort of level of government support this event gets.
I don't know.
If any.
Possibly.
I'd be meaning to check that out, actually. But I'm sure that no one would be silly enough to make claims that are COVID.
But without knowing, of course, because we didn't ask, I think some of the ones down there, if you scratched the surface, because I told you and you got the impression, and we sort of gleaned, a lot of the people there are honest. They really believe in the products they're selling. So why wouldn't they think it would help for COVID? You see what I mean?
Yeah, and it is a sort of hallmark of alternative medicine that it can cure everything. Like
yes.
You've got your magic wand and it will cure cancer, kidney failure.
Well, look at this list we've got here for one of the devices which I tried out, which is a sort of a vibrating weird thing they put on my head. Look at all the things it treats: migraines, headaches, jaw pain, on and on.
Anti-fasciitis, muscular inflammation, carpal tunnel, menstrual cramps, muscular dystrophy, trigeminal neuralgia.
Wow.
That's a very serious headache, trigeminal neuralgia.
I don't think I've had half of these conditions, but if I did,
to say I've not had really many.
I could get this device and there's the website too. So we've got some brochures, but you're right that there certainly weren't any prominent claims to zap viruses in anything that we just saw. All right. Well, look, I really appreciate you coming along.
Oh, thanks.
I really do, because I keep saying to people, come along, and they look at me, no, never. But it's important. I think it's important for any any GPs out there who are listening. Please go along to Mind, Body, Spirit and see what some of your patients are getting into. What treatments they think are working. Because honestly, we saw things there today which were simply pure nonsense.
And you can see why all this stuff has a lot of appeal, and particularly when you are in the health system and you're not getting the answers that you want and you're not feeling better, and you're not having your hand held and you're not being treated as a particularly special person, which doctors don't have time to do. They're on a sort of... everyone is overworked and understaffed and on a strict kind of time frame. You don't have time to spend that kind of time with your patients. But that fact can often push people towards the kind of practitioner who will offer what seems like a more kind, compassionate, natural experience. Yeah. And that's nobody's fault. That is just one to be aware of. And you'd think that, well, let's just say I had dinner with a couple of GPs not long ago, and one of them who's retired offered homeopathy and acupuncture to her patients. And she was of the belief that Western medicine doesn't work for everybody and some people need a bit more. But as if to answer any, or calm any problems I might have with that, she said, no, I always tell them it won't always work. It won't work for everybody, homeopathy. It'll work for some people but not others. And it's hard to come back to that because, certain cancer treatments don't work for everybody. That doesn't mean there's no evidence for them. It just means that we haven't figured out what the problem is. Homeopathy cannot possibly work for anyone. I'm sorry. There is no...
You beat me to it.
Mechanism. It can't unless you really, really, want to feel a benefit, and then you will feel it.
Yeah.
But so it's not as though even the medical profession is so to speak, immune from
of course
the
not.
appeal of
we're all human.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe we'll see you back here again for the next one.
Maybe.
Thanks, Penny.
Thanks a lot.
Hello, this is Maynard. Did you know that you can listen to the Skeptic Zone on YouTube? Yes, I know, sounds crazy, but it's true. Also, you can hear 40 logical fallacies with Michelle Bickersma and funny sketches with Richard Saunders and a host of other skeptics. Just click on the YouTube links on the homepage at skepticzone.tv.
The name Pete Evans is certainly known to listeners of the Skeptic Zone for, well, over a year now we've been reporting on the woes of this former celebrity chef and promoter of coronavirus conspiracy theories and quack devices. Last year he was fined $25,000 by the Therapeutics Goods Administration. This year, in the last couple of days, he has been fined $80,000. And we pick up the story from the ABC, abc.net.au, published on the 25th of May. TGA fines Pete Evans' company $80,000 for repeated advertising breaches, with a picture of a smiling Pete Evans, and the caption says the products flagged by the TGA are no longer on the former My Kitchen Rules host's website, and with reference to YouTube, the magic pill. Pete Evans has been fined almost $80,000 by the Therapeutics Goods Administration, TGA, for repeated breaches of the advertising rules around health products. Key notes. A product called the Biocharger was among those involved in the alleged advertising breaches. Evans was fined $25,000 last April after he claimed the Biocharger could be used in relation to COVID-19. The TGA describes Evans as a repeat offender and told his company to stop advertising unregulated therapeutic products. The controversial celebrity chef's company was hit with 6 infringement notices totaling $79,920 and directed to take down, quote, non-compliant advertising, end quote, relating to hyperbaric oxygen therapy chambers, to oral medicines, and a device called a Biocharger. In April last year, Evans was slapped with a $25,200 fine from the TGA for claiming the Biocharger, described as a, quote, subtle energy revitalization platform, end quote, could be used in relation to coronavirus, as well as a number of other unproven claims. Evans' company was also warned about a number of other products at the time. Due to the repeated nature of the alleged advertising breaches, the TGA has also issued a directions notice to Mr. Evans and his company to cease advertising therapeutic goods not entered in the ARTG, Australian Register of Therapeutic Goods, and to discontinue making various claims about therapeutic products, the TGA said. In announcing the latest fines, the TGA said the products were being advertised for their claimed therapeutic benefits, but were not included on the ARTG. The TGA also said that the advertising for static magnet products and the hyperbaric chambers implied the products were endorsed by a health professional, which was a violation of the Therapeutics Goods Advertising Code. Neither product is currently being advertised on Evans' website, but the blurb for the product, called Q Magnets, describes them as the world's most powerful and effective therapeutic magnets. Q magnets are developed by experienced physiotherapists and neurologists and are designed to help provide comfort for temporary relief of minor aches and pains, the website read. Q magnets are the real deal and used by hundreds of sports players, physiotherapists, chiropractors, podiatrists, acupuncturists, massage therapists, rehabilitation professionals, and individuals around the world. The hyperbaric chambers description said the product was used by a doctor who specialized in hyperbaric medicine, but also included a disclaimer that said the claims from the manufacturer did not constitute a medical recommendation and was intended for information and educational purposes only. No claims, real or implied, are being made, it read. Now, if we pop over to the TGA's own website in relation to this matter, they have a press release there too, and I'll link to both these items in the show notes. It says more or less the same thing as the ABC story was more or less getting its information from this. But it goes on to say here on the TGA, it is a requirement of the Therapeutics Goods Advertising Code No. 2, 2018, that therapeutic goods advertising does not imply that products are endorsed by health professionals, health practitioners, or medical researchers. Also, it goes on to say, advertisers are responsible for ensuring that therapeutic goods advertising is compliant with the Act. The TGA has published information about general advertising requirements, educational information and resources about Australia's advertising rules for the therapeutics goods can be found on the TGA website. And the final link down the bottom of the page is quite funny. The TGA website includes tips for consumers about how to spot a dodgy health product ad. Dodgy meaning suspicious. That might be worth studying after my visit to the Mind Body Spirit Festival. And I've often wondered why officials, compliance officers from the TGA, don't visit Mind Body Wallet, Mind Body Spirit, wander around and just innocently ask questions like we do from the skeptics and get all sorts of bizarre answers. Some of the products I've seen there over the years certainly run contrary to the TGA's regulations, and every year there seems to be yet another one. Anyway, once more, former celebrity chef Pete Evans shows his prowess in the kitchen by cooking his own goose.
Somewhere between science and superstition, there is a podcast.
Look, your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
That thing is not my daughter. And I want you to tell me there's a show where the hosts don't just report on fringe science and spirituality, but take part themselves.
Well, there is, and it's Oh No, Ross and Carrie on Maximum Fun.
This year, we actually became certified exorcists.
So yes, Carrie and I can help your daughter.
Or we can just talk about it on the show.
Oh No, Ross and Carrie on MaximumFun.org.
Let's take another wander into the pages of the Trove, or a Trove, the generic term I'm using now for digitized newspapers, archives, diaries, journals, magazines, gazettes, weeklies, periodicals, and so on, from the world, looking into various items of interest to skeptics. And this week I thought I'd do a double search. I searched for the term New Age and the word skeptic, and came up with some results. From Lehman News, dated the 27th of June, 1998. Mediums. And this is in the lifestyle section, subsection religion. Talking to the dear departed is one thing, but hearing from them, that's quite another. By Drew Sefton, Knight Rider, Newspapers. There are those among us, believers say, who possess the gift of communication with the dead, the mediums. Mediums relay messages from spirits to the living, advice and admonitions, as well as hope and comfort from ethereal entities unlike any on earth. Hogwash, skeptics say. Claims of mediumship have been around since humans first confronted the finality of death. Anyone who believes it's possible to talk with the dead is simply irrationally hopeful. And so the centuries-old debate continues. In the last year, mediums have soared into the media spotlight. At the forefront is the phenomenal success of the book, quote, Talking to Heaven, a medium's message of life after death, end quote, by Los Angeles medium James Van Praagh. Dutton, $22.95. It's been at the top of the New York Times notification bestseller list for months. There is no organization that licenses mediums or keeps statistics on their clientele. Using Van Praagh's business as an indicator, interest is intense. During the last year, his clientele has grown to a 3-year wait for private readings. Last month, actress Cher revealed she was using Van Praagh to talk to her recently deceased ex-husband, Sonny Bono. Why the fascination? In an interview, Van Praagh said he thinks it has to do with a failure of mainstream religion. People are looking into themselves, trying to discover more about themselves, and looking at the world outside. A very structured world and organized religion don't answer their questions, he said. Van Praagh makes TV and radio appearances and gives lectures around the country attempting to link audience members to lost loved ones. He has a website from which he sells educational materials. His clients, the curious, the hopeful, the desperate. When people talk to the Virgin Mary, they're talking to a dead person. It's just a question of how you define this, as magic or religion, said Marcello Truzzi, a professor of sociology at Eastern Michigan University and head of the Center for Scientific Anomalies Research, a network of academics. But that's talking to the dead. When it comes to trying to receive messages from beyond the grave, that's another issue. Most mediums consider themselves highly spiritual and are affiliated with the Spiritualist Church, defined by the Dictionary of Religions as a modern, mainly Christian, faith centered on communication with spirits of the dead who, it is believed, retain their personalities and are accessible through a medium, a person gifted and trained in such communication. Mediums receive their messages differently. Some close their eyes and sink into a trance-like state. Others liken it to tuning into vibrations of the spirits. Van Praagh, for instance, has described the process as sensing an energy level of a spirit and passing along the messages that comes to his mind. Van Praagh's presentations seem pretty standard, Truzzi said. Certainly what I've seen of him is extremely unimpressive. Truzzi spent his career examining parapsychological phenomenon, including claims of mediumship, communication with the dead, telepathy, extrasensory perception, and clairvoyance, seeing objects or events beyond the normal range of vision. After more than 35 years, he remains a skeptic. I haven't found anything convincing, Truzzi said, and I've really found very little that I'd even call compelling. Van Praagh is used to dealing with such skeptics. There are people who don't understand something, so the first thing they do is to judge it, he said. If it doesn't fit into their paradigm, it can't work. Most skeptics simply don't know the intricacies of mediumship the way he does, Van Praagh added. Truzzi said that as long as Van Praagh isn't doing anything unsavoury, such as doling out legal or financial advice, the medium is serving a purpose. Most of what he gives people is twaddle, and in a way that's good, Truzzi said. What most people want is comfort, guilt assuagement, and they get that. Your parents love you. They forgive you. They look forward to seeing you. It's not your fault they're dead. You can't go to a psychiatrist's couch and get those kinds of answers. Now, I've looked into Van Praagh over the years. You don't hear much from him anymore. He's very much a faded star from yesterday. And there's a very interesting series of clips, one of which I'm responsible for, actually. He appeared here in Australia. He comes to Australia regularly, or they all used to before the pandemic. John Edward would come twice a year. Anyway, Van Praagh came to Australia, and I captured him on 2 different television appearances. One where he was in a studio situation with studio audience, chat show, and he was asked to do a reading from the audience, cold reading as we know, and he floundered terribly. It's cringingly embarrassing. I'll link to that on the show notes. And in the same visit, he was in a completely different studio doing a different morning type news show where amazingly he could tune right into the subject. It was just incredible. He knew everything, it seemed, and did amazingly well. But of course, he had been speaking with the woman beforehand. And in fact, before they went to the commercial break, there he was happily chatting to the woman outside on the street as they walked into the studio. Is it any surprise he did remarkably well in that situation? Very unimpressed with James Van Praagh. Very unimpressed. And the next item comes to us from the Arlington Heights Daily Herald, suburban Chicago, 1st of November, 1988, by Bert Constable. Skeptics aim to find if mystics are for real. Sure, they say the Skeptics Convention starts this weekend. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. These skeptics call themselves the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, or PSYCOP. Scientists, authors, professors, famous people, they say. Carl Sagan is a PSYCOP member. I suppose he is one of the billions and billions of skeptics out there, right? Just kidding, guys. This is just for funsies, right? Or is your convention all work and no play? As a matter of fact, it is, said Ralph Blasco, a Bloomingdale entrepreneur and local skeptic. It is a heavyweight organization. They represent some of the best minds in the many scientific disciplines. Minds belonging to astronomist Sagan, science writer Isaac Asimov, University of Chicago psychologist and WGN radio host Milton Rosenberg, Harvard professor B.F. Skinner, and others. The conferences are deadly serious, Blasco said. No funny fez hats, no whoopee cushions, no dropping water balloons from the balcony. I can't speak for everybody, said Barry Carr, spokesman for the PSYCOP headquarters in Buffalo, New York, but I won't be dropping any water balloons. More than 500 skeptics worldwide are expected to converge on the Hyatt Regency O'Hare for 3 days to discuss, quote, the New Age, a scientific evaluation, end quote. Among the topics are such yuppie phenomena as channeling, the practice of subleasing your psyche to rambling spirits from eons ago, crystal healing, using little rocks to turn your life around, psychics in the legal system, people who call cops with clues from beyond, UFO abductions, earthlings snatched, media responsibility and the paranormal, why Elvis gets more ink than Mike Dukakis, the Shirley MacLaine phenomenon, all of the above. There are 100,000 proponents of these beliefs for every skeptic, said Blasco, who was also a leader in a similar group known as the Midwest Committee for Rational Inquiry. PSYCOP just wants to find the truth. We're not necessarily out to debunk a belief, Carr said. The purpose here is to find out why. Why do people believe this? WGN's Rosenberg is dedicating 3 nights of his Extension 720 program to the subjects. Among his guests will be James the Amazing Randi, one of the several skeptical magicians in PSYCOP. Rosenberg said he keeps an open mind, but strives to live rationally and intelligently. Skeptics, you see, are not merely disbelievers. Please don't make us sound like rabid naysayers, Blasco said. I'd be tickled if I could meet an extraterrestrial. But their tendency for proof makes PSYCOP members unpopular with the segment of the population that was thrilled to discover White House travel plans were based on astrological charts. If you gore someone's ox, they're not going to love you for it, Blasco said. The organization's magazine, The Skeptical Inquirer, routinely uncovers frauds concerning UFOs, faith healers, haunted houses, and get-rich schemes. Sowing the seeds of skepticism when it comes to palm readers and horoscopes can reap benefits in the real world of consumers. Like when a person comes to your door and says he's going to clean your furnace for only $39.95. Skepticism is particularly in vogue during this election year. If a politician tells you something, maybe you will think a little more about it. Carr said, I wish I would have known how dedicated to the facts these skeptics were before I boasted a bit about my background. I'm going to be pretty red-faced if I can't scrape up one of those dang Pulitzer Prize trophies by the start of the convention on Friday. Maybe I can bring a note from Elvis explaining how I won my Pulitzer during a previous life. And finally we have an item here from the Colorado Springs Gazette dated the 16th of September 2004 under the heading of Other Voices. Belief in mystics baffles the mind. Opinion, Barry Fagan, contributing columnist. In a former life I was an archbishop, a powerful figure in the Catholic Church. That's just one of the amazing things I learnt at the Colorado Springs Metaphysical Fair. I learnt the colour yellow cleans my liver, a spirit guide hovers over my right shoulder, and a light bulb stuck in salt improves my health. Being a skeptic means demanding extraordinary evidence for extraordinary claims, but being human means being open to new experiences. So it was with equal parts trepidation and determination that I gave up a beautiful Colorado Saturday afternoon, paid my $5, and walked into the exhibit hall. First I watched some readings. There were many different kinds, but I was struck by the similarities. The, quote, psychics, end quote, made constant eye contact and did their best to get the consumer to talk. This wasn't too tough. It all looked like a carnival technique called, quote, cold reading, end quote. You start with visual clues about the target and then throw things out for a response. A sympathetic client will respond to hints and let you know if you're on the right track. One way to throw off cold readers is to clam up. Don't talk. Just let their psychic powers work by themselves. After all, isn't that what you paid your $15 for? So that's what I did with my psychic. I picked one at random, told her truthfully this was my first reading, and off we went. Looking into her clairvoyant space, she saw career changes, family issues, and an upcoming crossover to a major transition point. All of this was news to me, but I said nothing, continuing only to make eye contact and nod sympathetically. She talked about two of my past lives, growing up in a wealthy family in the Old West, and an earlier incarnation as a Catholic archbishop. Why do past lives always involve wealth and power? Wasn't anyone a ditch digger or a peasant? Still, my psychic made it clear that I was not the Pope, so I guess that's something. I know my rabbi will be pleased. My psychic said that my past life experiences showed I was repressed emotionally. I needed validation to express my feelings. No surprise there. I deliberately didn't talk much. She also talked about physical changes in my body in the near future. I'm a man in his mid-40s with grey in his beard. Duh. Her psychic abilities revealed I was rejecting the repressive religion in which I was raised. She wanted me to know it was okay to integrate spirituality into religion. Remember, she knew this was my first psychic reading. Since this is Colorado Springs, she probably had me pegged as an evangelical Christian looking at alternatives. All standard cold reading stuff. I thanked her as politely as I could and headed for the door. I wasn't thrilled with being set back $17, but glad for the extra $2 I paid for a tape recording. Those $2 were for you, dear reader. You see, thanks to the wonders of real science, you can experience my psychic reading and make up your own mind, all in the privacy of your own home. I've posted the tape and a transcript at faganfamily.net/Barry/psychic. Enjoy! On my way out, I passed a booth promoting the film, quote, What the Bleep Do We Know? End quote, hoping for a thoughtful exploration of quantum mechanics and philosophy. I took in the late show that night. Unfortunately, the film is an unadulterated piece of New Age garbage. Bad writing, worse science. It makes Michael Moore look objective. Some readers will say I don't have an open mind. I try as best as I can. But having an open mind doesn't mean anything gets in. Critical thinkers are like good colleges. Our minds are open, but the admission standards are high. The producers of the film and the exhibitors at the metaphysical fair have one thing in common. They're convinced science supports their trendy New Age philosophy. Nonsense. Science provides our best understanding of the natural world so far. That's all. What the bleep do we know? Quite a lot, actually. We know if something looks like bleep and smells like bleep, then it is bleep, until proven otherwise. Sometimes you don't need philosophy. Common sense will do just fine. Dr. Fagan of Colorado Springs is a senior fellow at the Independence Institute. His column appears on alternate Thursdays. Readers may email him at barry@faganfamily.net. And believe it or not, after all these years, after almost 20 years, the reading is still there online at faganfamily.net/Barry/psychic. I will link to this in the show notes. But better than that, let's listen to a moment or two from the actual reading.
Okay, a couple of things I see going on. Actually, they're the same thing, but they manifest as two different things. There's a lot of change coming up in your life. I see career change, and I see like changes within the family, whatever that family structure looks to be to you. I see people leaving, I see people coming in. Leaving, not in terms of this dying, but leaving, like going out of your life and more people coming in. I'm also seeing that there is, like right now where you're at, I'm seeing a kind of pressure it's pushing you up, but the picture I get is that you're hitting your head, your head is up against, you can't see what it is because your head's up against it, but I can see it, and it's actually the dividing line between the current stage you're in and the one you're moving into. So you're that close to crossing over that line to being in the next stage, which is what is manifesting. And so for you, I'm seeing that head pushing up against it, and it feels like something is pushing you up. And it's just like a lot of pressure on your head. Are you aware of that at all physically? Are you feeling like you have a heavy head or a weight on your head or headaches recently? Or no? And so if you might not be aware of it at all. That's just the picture I get, is that pushing you up.
Well, there you go. And thanks to Barry Fagan for all those years ago putting up his psychic reading online for us to discover it in 2021. As I always say, you never know what you'll find when you do a search in the digitized archives of newspapers and so on from around the world. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone this week. Now, as I said at the top of the show, we have a special episode coming up probably within the next few days, before the end of the week at least. I'm just putting that together now. Iran Segev, our reporter and former president of the Australian Skeptics, in his Grain of Salt segment, interviews Julia Galef, who has written a book called The Scout Mindset, Why Some People See Things Clearly and Others Don't. And this is a special episode because the interview with Julia goes on for about an hour, covering many, many topics about critical thinking and how she looks at the scout mindset. What is the scout mindset? What is a soldier mindset? She talks about cancel culture, a very wide-ranging interview I'm sure you'll find quite interesting. I'll be adding some chapter markers in the interview, so if you're listening to it and you want to pick up another topic within the interview or go back to one you've listened to or stop and start, you can easily do that. And a little bit more about Julia. Julia Galef is the host of the popular Rationally Speaking podcast, so you may know her from there, and gave a TED talk in 2016, Why You Think You're Right Even When You're Wrong, and that's been viewed more than 4 million times. So look out for that interview coming into the Skeptic Zone feed later on this week. And a big thanks to Iran Segev, who contacted Julia Galef for this interview. And thank you to those people who've come on board in the last week with your contributions to support the Skeptic Zone via PayPal or Patreon at skepticzone.tv. Every cent makes a difference. It really does. And a shout out to Maynard, who last night did a live Mad Club DJing session in Newtown, the suburb of Newtown, and that was a lot of fun. Good on you, Maynard. And to check out more of Maynard's podcasts, Bunga Bunga, and his activities and interviews, he interviewed Bob Down the other week, which was really good. Just head to maynard.com.au. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.